Once a month over the next year, we will celebrate the history of Arkansas on the road to celebrating America's 250th birthday. This month, we highlight the importance of the Walnut Ridge Army Airfield during and after World War II. Walnut Ridge Army Airfield began as a basic flying school in 1942, just as the war began. Over 5,300 students entered training and just over 4,600 graduated. They all went through top-of-the-line flight training at the time.
This Link trainer, there's only about 90 of these left in the country. This is what they use to train pilots for instrument flying.
An instructor could give each pilot different flying conditions from an exterior table. The training simulator sat on an airbag to match the movement of the plane.
All the controls would work, so it would mimic true flight, at least from an instrument standpoint.
The base covered over 3,000 acres.
There was, I would say, upwards of about 10,000 folks here, building, working, training, a massive operation. It was the largest in the Southeast Training Command during the war.
Then, in 1944, the Department of the Navy took over the airfield, and it operated as the Marine Corps Air Facility. And in March of 1945, the facility was decommissioned. All the different planes from the war were flown to the base for storage and sale.
There were thousands of planes out here at Walnut Ridge that literally covered just about every square inch of the airfield. B-24s, B-17s, P-51s.
In September of 1946, Texas Railway Equipment Company bought nearly 5,000 planes. 2 giant smelters were built to scrap the aluminum. Harold Johnson moved to the base in 1946 when he was just 11 years old. He remembers the sounds and the smells.
Our apartment was the closest apartment to the smelter, so we could hear the chopping block going 24 hours a day, the guillotine that was chopping up the airplanes. And we could smell the smell of the airplanes being melted.
He also remembers there being planes on every piece of the airfield.
So there was probably a half dozen or maybe a few more than that little twin-engine AT-10 training planes that were parked probably less than 100 feet from our front door.
4,871 planes were sold and chopped up to be melted down.
So they started in late 1946, and by the end of 47, about everything was chopped up and melted.
The Air Force operated the base until 1963, when it was closed.
63 is a part of their redundancy reduction efforts, and with the Blytheville Air Force Base, was known as Eaker at the time, they decided to close down Walnut Ridge. Saw it as redundant, removed the antenna, started closing the base, and then turned it back over to civilian authorities.
For Harold, the experience around planes led him to become a pilot in high school. And in 1999, he was part of a group of 15 people that began the Wings of Honor Museum. 25 years later, at almost 90 years old, he still comes to the museum every single day.
I just think the history needs to be told, preserved, and that's why I come down here.
The Wings of Honor Museum aims to honor the legacy of the airfield and all it accomplished. Harold's only regret:
wish we'd started sooner, because by the time we got started, a lot of the artifacts, a lot of the buildings, a lot of the people that were connected with the place were gone. So, you know, if we'd started 10 or 20 years earlier, we could have had a lot more stuff, a lot more stories, a lot more history.
Terrence Ward says the importance of museums like Wings of Honor is for those stories and history to be told.
It's important for Wings of Honor to exist because the stories of the men and women who were here, they get lost to time.
Wings of Honor has so much to tell. Harold Johnson and Terrence Ward want to make sure
real history, real artifacts, real stories
are preserved for as long as they can be. Who knew Walnut Ridge was so important to our nation's history? If this piqued your interest and you want to see more, go to this story on our website.